Can you tell me a little bit about fair trade in a very short and simple way?
Okay. Fair trade is, first of all, it's a global movement. It's a movement about awareness of trade justice and making trade fair for all people throughout the world and free from exploitation. Locally, in Vietnam, with the producer in Vietnam, it's about ethical business approach and making sure that there's no exploitation, respecting the environment, respecting labor and human rights.
Yeah, I know that you have one blog about fair trade journey, right? Can you tell everyone again, even though you write a lot about that journey, what is the purpose of the journey and why you started with this idea?
Okay, well, the journey for fair trade started out actually in 2005. It was, I did a volunteer as a liaison for a fair trade organization in the US. And what I was doing was looking for cooperatives that we traded with and to follow up, to interview people, to make sure that the fair trade was actually fair and that there was a follow through, making them accountable to what the standards were. And so I did that for a year. I was also searching for new cooperatives and new organizations that needed help getting into a fair trade market. And that brought me into Vietnam. The second journey for fair trade was started last year in December. And the purpose was to, I had done a review of all the materials out there, the publications about fair trade, and they were all focused on fair trade from the view of the North, the Western concept of fair trade. There's a lot of the ideology. There were some case studies or anthropological studies, but nothing really about the voices of the producers. And I thought, well, here's an opportunity to take what I know and do research that focuses on the voices of the producers. So I started out doing that. From here I went down to Hoi An in Vietnam to work with reaching out, and worked with them. It was terrific, outstanding, wonderful group. Then I went to Cambodia, and from there, Cambodia was a different story because it wasn't a success story. But that was an interesting, a great experience because it opened up the purpose of my journey. It broadened it. And then I went to the Philippines, where again I was refocusing on, let's go to the voices of the producers. And in the process, I began to understand the importance of the networks and the supporters of those producer groups, the NGOs, the community-based organizations, the advocates. These key players they were the socialist, the social change advocates. That's what they were. They were really focused on social change for the better and providing opportunity for disadvantaged communities, and how they went about it was with so much heart. And so the scale of my research broadened to looking not only at the voice of the producers, but to start looking at the holistic, what's going on around them, and how this network works, and how to establish a strong network. And that was the Philippines, had a really good example of that. Then from there I went to Indonesia with Shu, and when we got there, we kind of unexpectedly ran into the opposite issue, was that we had all this experience in the Philippines, but here it was kind of quiet. There wasn't so much going on. It wasn't the same spirit. It was much different environment. And so instead of 3 weeks of doing just research, we ended up doing 3 weeks of research and capacity building and starting fair trade initiatives and fair trade movements in local areas and communities, and so it became more of an action research program. Then it morphed from a strict purpose in looking into one thing, the voice of the producers, and it morphed into a bigger, more holistic view and understanding of